Welcome. Thank you for joining me. Today, I'd like to introduce you to the Irish Schools collection, a chronically underused resource. We will look at what the collection is, how we access it, the background to the collecting. We'll consider some examples and their use to family and local historians. The Schools collection, Ballycall na Scoil, was a scheme in the late 1930s to pinpoint where the wealth of Irish folklore resided, and as such does not cover the cities, so less useful if all your ancestors were from the cities of Cork and Dublin. It consists of 1,128 bound manuscript books containing over 252,000 stories from more than 5,000 primary schools, contributions from over 50,000 pupils from all over the 26 counties of Ireland. Over 250,000 pages from the bound manuscript books are online, fully searchable at the website duchas.ie. A further collection of approximately 40,000 of the children's original copybooks are stored at the National Folklore Collection, University College Dublin. Should you want to visit, do make sure you contact them in advance to discuss the suitable time and what resources you're interested in. When you use the website, you can actually just browse through the collection, or alternatively, you could go to the map view and hone in on an area you're interested in and access a school of interest that way. The contribution from each school is prefaced by a title page. Here we have the Brosna Boys School, Brosna, County Kerry, that is, and the title page contains this name of the school, the parish, the barony, the county, and the name of the teacher. It also indicates the period that the collection was made. In this case, for Brosna Boys School, B for Buckley, the collection was made between October 1936 and December 1938. Brosna Girls School, with C for Colini, the title page is here, and it indicates the collection took place between November 1937 and December 1938. We have 108 pieces from the boys' school and 81 pieces from the girls' school. The collection from the boys' school includes a piece from the teacher, Aeneas Leahy, who wrote quite a bit on the local drainage schemes. Here's a piece called My Home District, and the collector here is Sheila Lane, and she collected this on the 16th of May 1938, and the informant is Mrs. Lane, age 47, from Carrigeen, Brosna, County Kerry. And it says, I live in the townland of Carrigeen, parish of Brosna, and barony of Tregamasy. In this townland, there are approximately 14 houses and families. There's only one thatched house in the district. The others are covered with slate or iron. The name Carrigeen means the little rock and signifies the chief characteristics of the townland. The land is good, but is hilly in some parts, and the rocks are very near the surface of the land. There are 5 old men, over 70 years, still living here, and they tell stories, both in Irish and English, of olden days. The houses were more numerous in Carrigeen in former days, and many old ruins are still to be seen there. The people who inhabited those houses, which are now in ruins, went either to America or Australia during and subsequent to the famine. So we're starting to get information relating to the drop in the population. During the famine, in the 10 years, 1841 to 51, the population of this area of County Kerry dropped by 30%. Here's another piece, the old school. Here we have the collector is Kitty Morrissey. She collected it on the 8th of May 1938, and her informant was Con Morrissey, aged 43, Brosna, County Kerry. The old school. The Brosna School was built about 50 years ago, but before that time there were other schools in the parish, so we're talking about going back to the 1880s. The oldest inhabitants of the village of Brosna attended school at the top of the village in the place where the house of Mr. Culnan now stands. It was a long, low thatch building, and at one time my great-grandfather, Con Moynihan, taught there. Other teachers were John Curtin, James Stack, and Miss Moynihan. There were 3 rooms in the schoolhouse. In those days, slates and slate pencils were used instead of papers and pencils. These slates were condemned by the authorities as being unhygienic. Reading, writing, and arithmetic were the principal subjects taught at that school. So we're starting to learn about the education system and the built environment. What topics are covered here? We've collections of prayers, riddles, proverbs, local heroes, poets, landlords, patron saint, local place names, monuments, ruins, roads, weather lore, local cures, marriage customs, famine times, penal times, old stories, riddles, pishoga, that's superstitions, fairy forts, leprechauns. How did this scheme work? Well, each school was provided with a 37-page booklet drawn up by Sean O'Sullivan by the Folklore Commission. Each week, the teacher selected a topic from the book. For example, the landlord. Teacher then copied the questions onto the board. Who was the local landlord? How long had the family been settled in the district? Were they looked upon as good or bad landlords? Have evictions or plantings been carried out in the district? Where did the evicted people go? How did the landlord or his ancestors first come into possession of the land? Was the land divided into farms under their guidance? Were farms subdivided among members of families on marriage? So these questions were copied up onto the board. The children in the top 2 classes of the primary school, aged about 12 and 13, copied the questions down into their jotters, then went home to the older members of their own family or older members of the locality and asked them the questions, recorded the answers they got, brought the information back into school. The teacher studied what they had written and chose the best of them to be copied into the manuscript books. Here we have a piece collected by Mairead Ní Súilleabháin on the 18th of February 1938. The information was given to her by her father, Mr. Patrick O'Sullivan, Mortonville, Lombardstown. Our landlord, Sir J. L. Cutter. My father's landlord was Sir James Lawrence Cutter. He lived near Mallow, and his agent was Mr. Edmund Hunt, Danesfort, Drumahane, Mallow. The landlord was not a bad man, but the agent had the name of a tyrant, and nobody liked him. There were a great many evictions in the parish of Kilshannig at that time, but after the Land League was started, there were few evictions, so from the 1870s onwards. We have no landlord now, but the government collects the annuity, which is only a small fraction of what the rent used to be. The annuity refers to a payment for land purchased under the Land Acts. That would be the Land Acts of the late 19th century, early 20th century. Here we have a piece about the death of Peter O'Neill Crowley. Peter was an active protagonist for the Fenian movement. On Easter Sunday, March 31st, 1867, Peter Crowley was mortally wounded in Kilcooney Wood, Kildore, County Cork. On March 29th, Crowley and his comrades slept at Sheehy's of Dara, Kilfinane, County Limerick. On March 30th, he slept at Patrick Hanley's, Kilclooney, Kildore, County Cork. Crowley took shelter in the wood. The soldiers, hearing he was in the district, surrounded the wood. Crowley was wounded and taken to Hanley's house, where he got the priest at 9 o'clock. McClure and Kelly were taken prisoners and sent to foreign lands. So this piece was written by Margaret Carroll, Balmolty, Kildore, County Cork, and the information was collected from Mr. John Walsh, Cullina, Kildore, County Cork, aged 55 years. So you might be asking yourself how accurate are the information collected by these school children. So this one piece that I looked into, I checked the facts are all correct. I checked it in the Irish biography published in 1878 and then by accessing the death record. So these are things that we with access to the internet have now access to and can check the accuracy of some of these pieces, whereas the local children would have none of this. And it's interesting to see how accurate many of these pieces are. Here's a piece called The Local Roads. The collector is Maureen Leahy on the 25th of April 1938, and her informant was Aeneas Leahy, age 40, Brosna, County Kerry. And we just look at the last piece here, last paragraph. So the road which leads to Raescola was made in the year 1879 or 80. Workmen at that time were paid a halfpenny a day dietless, so they weren't even fed. A horse got 5 shillings and people had to work from 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 in the evening. So this last paragraph gives us a sense of the working conditions and confirms that a horse was way more valuable than a human being. So all these pieces that were put online, when they were put online, there was a big crowdsourcing project to transcribe the individual pieces, and the vast majority of them are now transcribed. So if you're not good with reading handwriting, don't worry, there's transcriptions there to help you out. Now let's look at another piece. Teachers added pieces also. Here the teacher used the school roll to calculate and analyse the average number of primary school children per square mile locally. And these show a decline in the local population from 1878 to down to 1917. So the peak was of 11.8 children per square mile in 1882, and it had dropped to 4.6 in 1917. This piece, done by the teacher from Ahaduna National School, County Cork, relates to work he'd done studying the school roll on a 10-year basis from 1867 through to 1937, looking at the number from each family appearing in the roll. So, for example, we've 4 Buckleys in 1867, dropped to 2 in 1877, none in 1887. Then, of course, we got the next generation, 1897, 3, 1907, 3, dropped to 92 in 1917, none in 1927, and then, of course, the next generation appears here in 1937. My own favourite, personal favourite, was 3 pieces collected from my great-grandmother, Kate Cotter, who died in 1941 in Brosna, County Kerry. So often, women's lives and stories are missing from history, and this is a collection containing so many women's voices. So the examples I've shown you focused on the surname Cotter and counties Cork and Kerry, but there are a wealth of stories from all of the 26 counties from over 5,000 schools, mainly collected in 1937-38, but many pieces reaching well back into the 19th century, a wealth of history, folklore and local stories. I hope this has whetted your appetite and tempted you to explore this amazing collection.